In this episode, we talk about how to create your own built in audience by creating your own IP for your project.
Yes. And that's what this film did. Started out as a web series.
Yep.
That was the IP, and that was enough to get it moving into a feature film.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be another cult classic. It's a very recent one. It was released this year.
Yes.
And before we get going on this, after recording the episode, we finally heard back from the director on the budget. So while in here we say we don't know the budget and we talk about it, as we jump into this, the budget was just under $200,000.
Yeah.
And it was 2 years of fundraising to make this happen.
Yeah. Just plugging along.
Yep.
Raising money.
So keep that in mind, and let's roll with this.
Let's do it.
We're off.
Welcome to Bravo for the B-Side. I'm Danny.
And I'm Jim.
And this week, we are originally going to do a Christmas-themed movie, since it is Christmas week.
It is. And we were.
Yeah. But
But
this became available for rent on Amazon Prime, and we had been waiting for it, and we're pretty excited for it. And so we seized the moment.
we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
Well, this week we did Zombie with a Shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was released earlier this year,
Mhm.
April of 2019. It was written and directed by Hilton Ariel Ruiz. And it is starring Braden Bad, Catherine Kuhn, and Kyle Hester. It's not rated. It would be rated R, believe me.
Yeah.
But because most indie films, when they're released to platforms or on their own, they don't have MPAA ratings,
True.
which is kind of cool, really.
Yeah.
Go through all that stuff. The budget on this, not sure what the budget was. I reached out and I didn't hear back by recording time. The plot for this or the log line is Aaron and Rachel are on the run due to the fact that Aaron is infected by what seems to be a zombie virus. As the story unfolds, they find that there is more to this infection than it seems. Now, it's worth noting, for those of you that don't know, that this was a web series that started in 2012.
Yes.
And Hilton turned it into a feature.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And, this is the kind of thing I didn't know about it
I
in
didn't
terms
either.
of a web series.
No.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen the web series.
No. It's, and that'll be something we'll talk about at the end. But this is a great example of all these things happening that you just don't know about.
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, it would literally be a full-time job, sitting and hunting all day for what's going on in the world, what's going on with movies, indie films, and stuff.
God. Yeah.
I mean, and there's no way anyone would have a completely accurate takedown on any of this.
I mean, you could set up all the RSS feeds you want. It's not going to cover everything.
It isn't. But the reason I knew about this is because I actually floated on, I think it was Twitter. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on Twitter. Floating around, somebody retweeted something that somebody retweeted, it made it to my feed like 10 times removed. Right. And I thought, so I started following and just, over the months, getting closer, doing this, here's a shot, here's so-and-so and this and that. And it's exciting because this is a true independent film.
It is.
I mean, well, all independent films are true independent films, but this is one he had to, go to the ropes for the money and, took something small, web series, which we'll talk about again towards the end. And You need to see this. You need to see this.
You do. And it hooked me right away when you showed me the trailer because it's a great trailer.
Yes,
And the title of this movie is awesome.
I know. And after we watched it,
Yeah.
right? I went on and did a review, and Hilton saw it, Kyle saw it, and I kept retweeting it. Come on, people! It's a zombie with a shotgun. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we thought.
Right?
Zombie with a shotgun. Brought back a little reminiscence of hobo with a shotgun. Anything with a shotgun would sell to us.
Yeah.
It could be Pepe Le Pew with a shotgun.
It's not hard to entertain us.
It's not. But yeah, we'll roll into this in just a second. This is one of those cases where we've been kind of pushing it a little heavy on social media. Um, and will be pushing when the episode comes out, because when you rent and we'll put this information will be in the show notes, right? So you can go and buy a DVD.
Yes.
It's $25, and that $25 isn't just paying for the DVD; it's helping go towards his next projects.
Yeah.
Which we'll address a little bit. Do it anytime you have an opportunity to support indie film. You really should, because this is what it's all about. Indie films are B movies, and
Yeah.
B movies are what make the world go round.
They are. And that money goes to all the people who were involved in the film. And I remember we had a friend who had a web series on Amazon that you could buy.
Yeah.
And he told us, I mean, it's funny, but he was serious. For every one that's sold, I get a nickel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a great way to make money. In fact, Kyle broke it down. It's like pennies on the dollar out of that rental, because Amazon gets their cut, and then there's this, and this. And by the time anyone sees anything out of it, it's literally pennies.
Yeah.
But a lot of pennies can add up, and and it's part of the journey. Mm-hmm. By Hilton's 15th film, it might be a completely different story, right? This could get a distribution deal and stuff. Might be well on that road. But yeah, it's like Space Trucker Bruce. Now, Space Trucker Bruce, we never asked Anton about the beginning of its distribution.
Right.
Because we found it buried in the vaults of, you have no business being here in Amazon. and it was a lucky find, but it's not for rent. It's included with Prime.
Right.
Right. And then I know there's a formula for per minutes streamed, you get something. And it just really comes down to, not a lot. So, when you're out there and you're finding these films, watch them, because they're B movies, and you can take your own lessons from it. Right. So, all right. That's enough of that. Let's get into this thing, because I'm kind of excited, because there's a lot I want to talk about after. Forewarning, we're going to stop cold. We are not going to talk about the ending, because it's out there.
Yeah.
We want you to watch it. When we review like Night of the Living Dead, it's 60 years in the in the theater. Like we said, shame, bad on you
if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. And some of the other older movies we'll talk about all the way through to the end, because it doesn't spoil the experience. It's not like, Bubba Hotep.
Right.
It's not like, oh my God, he fights the mummy? Fucking kidding me? What did you think was going to happen?
Well, yeah. But if you remember in Wolf Cop, we didn't quite spoil the ending of that, just because I had a lot of respect for how that was done.
Right. Yeah. and when we get to those cases, we'll stop short. But yeah, Wolf Cop, the ending had a nice little bit of surprises.
Right.
And we didn't want to, ruin that, because it was fun. We were genuinely like, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Zombie with a Shotgun.
Yeah. All right. I was fully excited going into this. And we hardly ever actually rent movies to cover.
Right.
Most of them are available on streaming services or on YouTube. But this one we did rent.
Yeah, or we have them.
Right, or we own them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we paid for the rental, and because of that, my expectations are high.
Well, yes.
And so I'm like, yeah, let's go. This is going to be worth all 199 pennies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bummer. We didn't even give our full support in renting it because we got the Prime discount for renting.
That's true.
It's $2.99 to rent. We're clicking through. Oh, it's only $1.99.
Yeah. Maybe we can Venmo Hilton $1 for that other. Cover the rest of that.
That'd be a straight pure dollar too.
It would. Yeah. So the opening shot of the movie is literally a zombie with a shotgun.
It is.
And I'm like, yeah.
It is.
The makeup, awesome.
Yeah, for on the screen,
right?
Like, oh, result. That's full on. Here we go.
Yeah, and I hardly ever will ever say this, but it was like Nicotero level makeup.
It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super good.
I agree.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then we know via a super that it's 6 months earlier before we see the zombie with a shotgun.
Right. And 6 months earlier, what we see is a man going into a dark room down some stairs. Gets to another room, and there's a man tied in a chair. This is always interesting to me. What did he do? So the first man, who the character Hank Ray, which is played by Kyle Hester, he is a bounty hunter, and he wants to know if the man has a virus. Okay. He's going to go the not so nice route. You can see getting the answers because the guy's kind of stalwart.
He's sweaty.
Yeah, reminded me very Bronx type, kind of. Didn't even need to say anything. He just looked at him like, "Fuck you and your mother."
Right.
Right. So when Hank is starting to do the stuff, or starting to get some tools and stuff ready, then the guy speaks up, and then we hear, "Go fuck yourself."
Yep.
As we cut to a nice city shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we get a couple of flashes of different little bits of things.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a business guy who we later learn is Mr. Yoshida.
Yes.
Smoking a cigarette in a window, and he's on the phone, and he's very.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a goth girl walking down a street.
Yes.
And she's nervous.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. She ends up. It's like she's being followed. She ends up ducking down an alley and through a door and up a stairwell. And there are 3 pairs of shoes that we can see following her. She gets to an apartment. There's a blonde girl inside. And the color matching here is a little bit off between the shots.
Right.
But other than that, they're pretty well framed and,
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's full on legit. And, I could wait till the end, but things like that, it's when you don't have a plethora, you don't have, Paramount's warehouse of lighting equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to go from outside and to inside, and especially if it's not a set, right? So you're actually in a building.
Yeah.
You're stuck with the dynamics of the building. You can do what you want to try and manipulate the light, but you're still at the mercy of what's going on outside.
Yes.
And as we know with independent film, right, her walking into the door and then the shot of her coming through the door could have been months apart.
Right.
You just don't know. And even if it's, the same day, hours pass, lighting changes, and it's hard to match that. And I just want to say that because color matching is my big bitch about everything. And it's not that I complain about it. There's certain things that we've seen where it's like, I fucking know you could have done better. Okay. Cause I've said it before. What's holding us up on our little short film is me trying to color match all these segments that have been destructively edited. So I can't like revert. And, it's just a bitch. Anybody who's done it knows and is shaking their head like, oh, fuck, yeah, man, that's no way to do it. So, yeah, when things are off, it's not a huge deal. If this were, Infinity War, I'd be like, you've got to be shitting me.
Okay. The movie on Netflix, The Holiday in the Wild.
Yes.
Right? That's a newer.
Oh, God, yes. I know what you're going to say. Bring it.
Okay. So I watched this movie on Netflix called Holiday in the Wild. I was like, oh, this is cute. There's elephants. And I'm a sucker for elephants.
Yeah.
Right? And it had Rob Lowe in it. And I like Rob Lowe. Mm-hmm. He's great.
Yeah.
So I watched through this whole movie, and it's a cheesy rom-com. It's really predictable and silly, but the elephants are cute. And then you get to the end, and they have their like very emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it switches from him to her, and the color matching is super off.
I know.
Like distractingly off. And this is it's not a tentpole film.
It's a Netflix film.
Right.
And Netflix has money. So yeah, it's inexcusable. Yeah. It was so bad. The green screen.
It was terrible.
It's like, I don't even know. It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, look it up, skip to the last 10 minutes, watch it through and you'll find it. It'll spare you the rest of the movie and doesn't cost you anything to take a peek. But yeah, that's an example of Jesus Christ. Seriously?
Even people with money have trouble color matching.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I think at that point, they were just like, we got the check from Netflix. Fuck them. This is what they get. Oh, man. Anyway, let's get away from the color matching. It's just, it's like a broken blister on my butt, that thing. So now she's in the building, and then we have another woman, Angela, is on the phone, and she's talking about a Russian experiment. And then we bust into this animation sequence. This is really cool. And this was apparently the guy who did this, I believe, when I was looking things up, Stick Figure Theater.
Okay.
On MTV.
Oh.
For a while. So, yeah, heavy hitter.
They're cool. They're simple.
Yeah, but it worked. It was a nice transition. So yeah, there's this little animation sequence that we'll let you see, and then the next thing we know, we got three men outside, and they shoot the lock off the door and bust in. They take the first woman out of the room into the bathroom, and they're talking to her friend Angela. And then the first woman runs away, and then they go after her. Now, I think the first woman is Stacy.
Yeah, the goth girl.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning, too. So having watched this for the first time and taking notes, it's sometimes little details like names. We don't often miss them.
Right.
But it did feel like we didn't get a lot of name dropping.
There wasn't a lot of name dropping in
right.
Here.
So that's why we have like first woman, second woman. and I have to say it, like your notes on Night of the Living Dead. The hero. Instead of Ben, the hero. And then I said, well, his name is Ben. She did a find and replace. So everywhere in your notes, the Ben of the story.
Well, I try not to introduce names until they're actually introduced in the film.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah, and that's why we start out like this, first woman, second woman. Mm-hmm. But we got really deep into this, and we still didn't have names.
That's true.
We had to watch the credits to associate. And it could be because we missed the name drop. And here's, the thing. How many times did I call you, Danny during the day? I mean.
A lot.
What?
A lot.
Oh, hey.
When you're trying to get my attention, Danny.
Well, when I'm trying to get your attention, but when we're together all, day or evening and stuff, and we're just talking, I don't, drop your name. So, Danny, what would you like to do?
That's fair.
Danny?
No.
Danny, I was thinking, Danny, normal people conversation, it doesn't work that way, especially couples,
Sure.
Especially if you have pet names. People don't call each other by their names often. And I'll say that the conversation in here is really good throughout the
dialogue
film.
is good.
It's very natural, which is why we might have missed the one moment the name was dropped. And it doesn't make sense to keep saying it.
Yeah.
After,
That's fair.
Anyway. So Stacy runs away, and then the three guys they're out after her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there are some more kind of city shots and little individual shots of things. There's like a couple in a car, but and there are some that are really, really good. Like the city shots are really, really good. And then some of the close-up shots that we get into, I don't know. They're okay. But in any case, like I've definitely seen a lot worse.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I sometimes when I'm watching an indie film, I really, really like knowing just by the visual of it that it is an indie film.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gives me a good feeling inside.
Ah.
Why are you laughing at me?
I don't know. All right. So, yeah, the city shots come up again, and they're really nice. The drone work in this is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, if you got the money and you can get a professional drone pilot or someone who's really good, I don't know who the drone pilot was, if he's a known person or he's just really fucking good at this. Because we're not talking, your $150 drone at Target.
No.
Right. These are thousands of dollars. These are the guys who have to, register and everything. And, these are many, many thousands of dollars taken to the air. So, they're putting some time in this. And they are really good.
They are.
It's not just the clarity and the smoothness, but the framing. That's what always catches me is the framing. I was really, it was almost soothing, like kind of like one of those art films where it's just scenery and it kind of brings you into it, gets you feel like the city, the grittiness, because there's a lot of grit in this city.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we see a lot of it later.
Yes, we do. Quite a bit. So the titles are rolling, and then what we do is we end up right up in a car. There's a woman driving, and there's a guy in the back seat, and he looks like he's not doing well. And this woman is taking him to Angela's. We know Angela.
Right.
His friend.
Okay.
He doesn't want anyone to know where they are or that anything is wrong with him.
Yeah.
Okay. So, seems he's been called, and this is where it gets kind of thrown in. Seems he's been called 3 times about getting tested. And I'm assuming for the zombie virus.
Right.
Because it's in the log line.
Yeah.
Or he refers to an infection. Right. So the woman then says that is reminding him that the government has said that anyone infected with the virus is not to be harmed. So that was interesting.
Right.
It's certainly a different take on everything.
Yeah.
And then the man says that his whole family is in a facility, but they lost his sister. And so I'm guessing at this point, this guy's Aaron.
Yeah.
Because it's in the log line.
Right.
So here we have our hero. His family's apparently been infected. And his sister, they lost her we don't know. She escaped maybe, I'm thinking. Or,
Right.
I didn't immediately think, well, they lost her in processing kind of thing.
Right. So we're getting a little tiny bit of a picture of the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Of this movie where the zombie virus is a thing, possibly, that people get. And
Yeah.
when they get infected, they get brought somewhere, but they're not harmed. And it doesn't seem like the zombies are a major problem in this world.
This is not an apocalyptic
Right.
zombie film.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's not giving anything away saying that. You can just tell by looking. I mean, people are, the whole city is full of people doing their thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's hiding.
It's a fairly functional world.
Yeah.
Right. So they go up what look like the same stairs the goth girl went up earlier in the movie. And I think they might be the same stairs. They go into a different apartment.
Right.
And the girl they're staying with is Angela, and she is really into Aaron.
Yeah.
She's like all over him.
Yeah.
Like touching his hand.
Like uncomfortable flirting.
Very.
Because,
yeah.
his girlfriend's there.
Very obvious flirting.
Yeah.
Right?
Not subtle at all.
And then she gives him some medicine for headaches.
Right. So, at this point, we get the idea that something's going on. She knows about this. So this is common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this virus is a hidden secret, top secret thing, right? Everyone knows about this. Clearly, if they made a government announcement.
Right.
Right. So after that, Angela leaves, and Aaron assures the other woman, who's Rachel, his girlfriend, that she doesn't have to worry about Angela. And my immediate first thought was, I think she does.
Right.
Not that you're the problem, but Angela looks like she doesn't give a shit who's in the room and whether or not you're saying yes or no to what's happening. She's just gonna keep, Yeah. I don't think he can speak for Angela.
Yeah. I don't think he can. And Rachel is like, no, it's fine. I'm not jealous of her. But I don't know, if it were me, I'd be like, really?
What's up, Spanky?
Seriously?
I think it would be a little more than that. Okay. I'm just going to keep going on while you glare at me.
You do that.
So later, Rachel's on the phone with another woman, and they're talking. Aaron's laying in the bed, and he moves his head, and we can see he's got these veins.
Yeah.
Whereas his head was on the pillow, just kind of creeping out from like the hairline towards the front of the face.
Yes.
Like, it's you've seen it in any disease film, right? The veins that are coming out.
Blackish.
Yeah. And I thought, I don't know about this.
I know.
She should be looking at him. And so the woman seems pretty shifty. And then there's some dream sequences. And this is, it was a little confusing, I have to admit.
It was pretty confusing.
There's just some dream sequences. There's different women involved. Excuse me. Aaron's in a chair, then he's on a bed, and then there's woman on woman, and then there's a woman on him, and then a different woman on him, and kind of just all all over the place.
Yeah, and someone with like occult symbols on their face.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's supposed to be Angela, isn't it?
Yeah. I think
Yeah. With all kinds of glyphs on her forehead, and So then the call ends. Rachel wakes Aaron up, and then they're in the shower, and the veins on his face are completely gone.
Right.
Okay. So, interesting. So then we get a flashback. So there's this older man, and he's got some guns, and he's arming himself. He walks into a room, and then Aaron's in that room, and he's been sleeping in it. And the older fellow tells Aaron that they're looking for him. It says he has to get out of there. He gives Aaron a handgun that he had stuck in his belt before he left his own room. And we find the older man is a friend of Aaron's father and has been hiding him as a favor to his dad. But apparently things are getting too hot, and Aaron needs to boogie.
Yeah.
Because it's getting, the situation is no longer tenable.
He's not like welcome there anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So then we're back in the apartment, present day. the big landlord guy comes into the apartment.
Yeah.
And uh, the couple, Aaron and Rachel, wake up and point a gun at him. They have kind of a weird exchange with him.
Yeah. My favorite, the line that I loved from that was, well, I thought you might be hungry.
What?
Because I know I'm totally cool with our landlord just walking in at any time of the day, seeing if, want some tapas or cheese curds or something. Are you hungry?
No. No. So they decide to run.
Yeah.
Because of that weirdness. And I'm just a little confused at this point by the movie, and I'm like, maybe there's something I'm missing, right? But the landlord gives the bounty hunter from earlier directions to where they went, like points in the direction.
Right. Hank shows up.
Yeah. And he's so cool looking. He looks like Billy Cyrus, the bounty hunter.
I about died when I saw you from Billy Ray Cyrus. Because I didn't think about it, but when I saw your note, I'm like, yup. that could fit it appropriately 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And he does look. This is the thing I like about Hank. He doesn't look like, now if someone did have so maybe, I don't know, maybe it was in the script, right? Or in the character development. He's got to look like Billy Ray Cyrus. I'd be totally cool with that. You got to have a visual, to go for, right? But here's the thing. When people do that, every bounty hunter we've seen in like everything is such a stereotypical, like emotionless douche, right? And there's nothing about him that's cool. It's just like, oh, this fucking guy again. Right? But Hank is actually like pretty cool, because at this point in the movie, obviously you read the log line, Aaron, is the protagonist. So clearly, is Hank, there to fuck him up, or is it going to be like, love at first sight at some point?
Who knows?
But he does, well, the character does a good job of making you want to see, where's this going? Where's this going? Not this fucking guy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's on it. And here's the thing. He's not walking around with guns.
No.
Or knives out. Mm-mm. He's just like, gotta go. Yes. He's on it.
He is. And I affectionately refer to him as Billy Ray the Bounty Hunter for the rest of my notes because I didn't catch his name.
Yeah.
He chases after them. They go like up some stairs, off a roof.
Yeah, it's like a full parkour.
Yeah.
Chase scene.
And he ends up seeing them like from a roof. He sees them get into the car and drive off.
Yeah, because they get up to the roof, they hop like to other roofs that are that are super close, and then they find a door down. So yeah, by the time he gets up, they're in another building and having gone down and came out.
Yeah. So then he goes to the apartment they were staying in and rifles through the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up finding Aaron's handgun and taking it with him.
Right. And then we get some more city shots.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're beautiful, but they concentrate a lot on some really rundown areas of town.
Yes.
And it kind of, for me, it set the tone that, these guys aren't hiding in, fucking Fifth Avenue apartments and, that kind of thing. It helped sculpt the grittiness, because there's a lot of interiors in old buildings.
Yeah.
And they're a fucking mess. I mean, you can tell they're condemned. They're like,
dilapidated.
They're like Detroit washouts, abandoned blocks of buildings. Or if you go down to New Orleans, there's still places there that haven't fucking seen a human being since the hurricane, and they're just dilapidated and shit.
Right.
And people guerrilla film there all the time. Right.
Well, yeah.
But, inside is one thing. Right.
Yeah.
But this combination of, nice cityscape, and then bam, we're on some broken down, nasty ass buildings crumbling on the outside. And you look at it and you think, well, clearly, these can only be, meth dens and, This is where all the people
Right.
go when they're strung out and stuff. So really put it together.
Mm-hmm.
So in one of these
Yes.
monstrosities, we have Aaron, and he's sitting on the floor, and now the veins are on his face again,
Mm-hmm.
right? Rachel says he needs to go to the hospital, and Aaron's insisting that the hospital gave him the virus, and they're going to kill him if he goes. So, okay, I noted that because it seems pretty important. I want to know more. And then the woman Rachel was talking to on the phone earlier, and it wasn't so this wasn't Angela, it was this other woman.
Mm-hmm.
So she shows up, and Aaron's not pleased.
Right.
Right. And I get it. I'm like, the poor guy just can't seem to trust anyone because everyone's like super fucking sketchy.
Yeah.
Right. He's the only one who's straightforward. He's like, I don't want to get found. I want to be hiding. I've got some sort of fucking thing wrong with me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all the information he has. And
right.
it's all we need. Yeah. There's nothing about him that says, what's going on? But everyone else is just like, God damn. And so now all of a sudden the police are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And bam, they ask if someone is infected. And it turns out Rachel's friend called them. And that's where I noted, well, again, Aaron's right not to trust anyone.
Right.
So the cops are going to eliminate the threat.
Yeah. Even though, we heard earlier that they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to. And Rachel reminds them that the government says the infected are not to be harmed. And the cops don't give a shit. And then this is what was interesting. A man in a suit comes down, and this is Mr. Ross. It's Aaron's lawyer.
Right.
Right. And there was some conversation. We glazed over it.
Yeah.
We don't need to hit every, don't need to read the script word for word. So Mr. Ross comes down, and Rachel asks if he can help, but he says there really isn't anything he can do. And she should have explained the situation over the phone because he can clearly see that Aaron's got the fucking disease or the infection or the virus, whatever you want to call it, because Aaron's not looking good. And then he just says he offers to help Rachel get some of Aaron's property after he's killed, even though they aren't married.
Right.
He can get a very lucrative settlement. I think here's a really smarmy man.
Right? He is.
What a fucking shitheel.
He's basically talking like Aaron's already dead.
Yeah.
And it's at this point when I'm like watching this smarmy dude, I'm like, oh man, can't wait to get some zombies up in this movie. He would be some good chum.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Okay, I thought about it. I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
Well, because I don't want to ruin the tone.
Okay.
So till we get to the end.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, yeah, never mind. But yeah, he would have been an ideal candidate for zombie chum.
Yeah.
Yeah, bucket number 1. So Mr. Ross is going on to talk about Aaron. And Aaron's apparently had issues after getting out of the military, and there was some allusion to that earlier,
right.
A couple flash scenes and stuff. And then suddenly Aaron lunges for the cop and takes the cop's shotgun. And then he shoots Ross, which I was like, straight on.
Yeah.
Right. And then we cut. At this point, I didn't know if he shot the cops or not.
Right.
And then we cut to Rachel's car is suddenly pulling into a garage, not like a regular garage, but like one of those big, like service building garages.
Yeah.
Where you can fit like a couple trucks in there, but it's super old.
It is super old.
Because that stonework and stuff. This was one of those buildings that has probably been falling apart for who knows how long. And so they get in there, the door's shut, and then she climbs in the back seat and then climbs on top of him, and the passion ensues while they have some privacy.
Yeah. So Rachel seems weirdly unconcerned that her boyfriend might be infected with a zombie virus of some kind.
That caught my attention as well.
I was like, I'm sure this is a transmittable thing.
Right.
Right? Otherwise they wouldn't isolate people infected with it.
True.
Yeah, but okay. And the veins on his face are gone-ish now. They've lightened a bit.
They faded.
But they're still there.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, and it might be one of those things where if you know what you're doing, you can avoid getting it.
Right.
I gotta say, a zombie virus I would be so less concerned about catching a zombie virus, excuse me, through sexual intercourse or anything like that.
I would never consider to figure out whether that was a thing.
I wouldn't even care because it can't be as bad as any of the real shit that's out there that you can catch.
Yikes. But and you know me, I love me some zombies and I love me some gore.
Yeah.
And as they're in the back of the car, I'm like, oh, let him turn into a zombie biter. That would be awesome. We even have a moment of sad music while they're doing this.
Right.
Where I'm like, is this a goodbye? I get really excited about stuff like that. And then, no, that didn't happen. It's fine, though.
You do like your character demises.
I love them. They're the best. So Rachel tries to start the car and is having issues. And then there's a weird noise from off camera.
Right.
So they go to investigate. And at this point, I'm pretty sure Aaron is later going to be our zombie with a shotgun that we saw in the beginning of the movie, because that doesn't really look. The makeup is so good that you almost can't be sure, Yeah.
Well, he's full zombie, like you said. It's Nicotero, Greg Nicotero level effects.
Right.
And think of a zombie, folks. The teeth, the mouth, the lips rotted away where you got nothing but teeth, and the skin and everything. I mean, it was, smacking good.
Yeah, but he's carrying around that shotgun now.
Right. Yeah. He's got his shotgun.
Yeah. And so they're looking around for the noise, and they're walking around the shack when his face veins show back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gets real weak.
Yeah. And then he collapses, and then the veins are super prominent, more and more. And he tells Rachel that she should go while she has the chance. That makes a lot of sense, right?
It does.
Because we've seen a lot of other zombie stories where, the people who are sensible, like, you got to fucking go. I've been bit. You don't want to be here. You can't, because this could happen any minute,
Yeah.
So she does.
Yep.
Before he turns, she's like, hey, you know what? That sounds good. So she takes off. Makes sense, right? And no demerits. It's like he's dead man walking.
Right.
Okay, there's nothing you can do to help him.
No.
Right? So might as well just go. Because not only is the shit going to get worse, but he's going to become a problem sometime soon. Right?
Right.
So as she's walking through the building, we got a man in the shadows. And then we have a flashback. And we learn that Rachel's dad was sick. And we see him. He's all coughing and weak. She gets him to bed. He asks how Aaron is, if he's showing any symptoms, and then that she has to stay away from him.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this might have to do with his problemed existence after service. But then a bit later, Dad's looking super nasty. Yeah. he's kind of charcoal color, blotched gray. Veins are showing. He's kind of groaning, moaning.
I'm really excited about zombies at this point.
I know. And he gets out of the bed. He sees himself in the mirror, and then he grabs a gun. And then Rachel's out talking with her friend, and then poof, they rush in. Dad shot himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he hadn't fully turned. He had just enough left, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and this is going based on stuff we've seen. There have been some zombie films and stories where there's a certain point that you start to turn, and there's still some bit of you up until that moment, you know? So I was like, all right, I get it. He did the smart thing.
Well, you and I, we've both talked about it. If either of us is ever infected, right?
Yep. Not a second's thought.
Nope.
it's not being cold, it's being practical.
Yes.
And that's kind of the cool thing. That's it's not a weakness of this film, but it's a general genre weakness. Is if they throw in the character who's overly sympathetic, right?
Yeah.
Loves him or her too much, cares about him or her too much, and I'm going to stay until the end. Well, here's the thing. Two things. When I see that kind of thing, and this wasn't even that, because Rachel left.
Yeah.
You need to go before I turn. Got it.
Done.
Yep. I'm going to Uber out of here. Is the 2 points. One, would you want anybody, if you really love somebody in a whole zombie situation, would you want them to become one?
I mean, no.
So this whole thing, I'm going to stay until they die and then I'll put them out. No. No. You sing a soothing song and you blow the brains out. Right?
Yeah.
You don't let them get to that point.
Exactly.
I mean, because that's the thing. And the other thing is, if you wait that long, clearly you aren't going to have the oomph to do it. And what's going to happen is they're going to eat half your ass. Right? And then you might, but at that point, you're gone. And that's usually what happens too. Usually in the tertiary characters. Right? Yeah. The primaries usually don't. A lot of times the secondaries usually don't, but any of those, like we've talked about in Night of the Living Dead, why are we having such an involved scene with these fucking people, this couple?
Yeah.
Right? Because they're nobody. So you can, get attached to them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Back in the present, Rachel's sort of like thinking about the flashback, and I think maybe she's pondering her decision to leave Aaron. When she gets grabbed by a guy from behind, and a real shuffling zombie finally shows up, and his face is great.
It is, yeah. It's another not rotten, but like what we would call a fresh zombie.
Yeah, he's got like a buggy eye.
Yeah, he's just been freshly fucked up. He hasn't had time to,
dry out or whatever.
He hasn't rotted yet. But he's a fucking mess. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. But they end up back in the room where Aaron is, and Aaron seems to have some sort of weird connection with the zombie.
Well, Aaron's laying down, and the zombie, he was actually kind of like romance movie creepy for me, because he's like right up in there.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh. I don't know if I'm ready for zombie love.
Yeah. And then the zombie just kind of wanders away.
Yeah.
And like maybe Aaron is a zombie whisperer.
I thought that. Or, okay, because there's that, it actually made me think of Alien. Alien 3. When the Queen corners Ripley, right? Or not the Queen, one of the xenomorphs corners her. It gets its teeth right up in her face, and then it just kind of pauses, and then it just backs out of frame and leaves. And you find out later, because it could sense that she had a xenomorph growing in her.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was going to be a queen.
Okay.
So it wasn't going to, from that point on, she was invincible. Because they're like, that's the queen's host. Nope, we don't fuck with that at all. And it was kind of the thing was, I don't know what it is, but maybe he senses something about him.
Right.
Or maybe because of the infection, he just smells like a zombie.
I don't know.
And the fact that he was passed out, certainly helped him.
Mm-hmm. But, and then the guy that grabbed Rachel gets shot. No, he runs away too.
Yeah.
And then Aaron and Rachel are arguing about whether she should put him down.
Right.
When he turns. And then, boom, Hank, otherwise known as Billy Ray, the bounty hunter, shows up and ends up catching up with them at their car. And he seems really winded.
Yeah.
When he gets there. And you find out that he is infected too somehow.
Yeah. Well, I noticed it, but I didn't note it. It looked like he had a bite mark.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Because he's been harrowing through all of this shit on their heels, right?
Hoofing it.
Yeah, everything that they just get away from, he's had to go through. You get that feeling like, life hasn't cut this guy a fucking break at all in this adventure.
Right. And maybe it was on, on their trail that he got bit or something, because he tells Aaron that the fact that he's infected is Aaron's fault.
Right.
And he's angry about it.
Right.
Yeah. And then we have kind of there's a shift to black and white for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Billy Ray, the bounty hunter, Hank, acts a little weird and dazed.
Yeah.
And wanders away.
Yeah. He goes away.
Yeah. And it seems almost kind of like what happened with the zombie that came up to Aaron. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just took it as it could have been just part of the if he was bit, he's infected.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know how quick this works.
Right.
Right. We don't have a metric yet for when you're bitten. Is it, like Walking Dead, right? Could be, 2 hours to 2 days. Now it's in fucking seconds.
Right.
Anytime someone goes down, they're back.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't have that. How long would this actually take? So I kind of took it as maybe it was part of the virus, or, just like, I don't know, maybe it like kind of just shuts you down. Like, I don't want any part of this,
Yeah.
Or maybe he felt too weak because Aaron was weak.
That's true.
Right.
But in any case, he wanders away.
Yes.
And then Rachel hears a noise from a truck trailer, which is right near where their car is.
Further in this giant garage.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the guy who grabbed her earlier. So she goes up and she sees, and it's the guy, and she gets the shotgun and blows his head off.
I know. Sweet. Yes.
Yeah. There's a really nice splat.
Yep.
On the back of the truck.
It was satisfying.
Mm-hmm. It was.
And then we're looking at a guy named Nathan, and he's wandering through some rooms and hallways, and he's asking for Nikki. And then Nikki comes out of a door, and she looks zombified. Right? This is one of those transitional. So we had the guy who looked like fresh zombie, right? Like fresh kill, and he just came back. And then we have, what we saw in the beginning, full-fledged, gray flaky skin, taut, half rotted. Well, she looks like she's not fresh, right? But she's working towards it. She's kind of haggard looking.
Yeah.
And then there's another zombie with her, and Nathan tries to fight off both of them, but he apparently had a broken broom handle. It doesn't do it. So they start chowing on him. Yeah. And then my big question from earlier is answered. The cops did not get shot.
Right.
Because in they come, and they're entering an old building, and they're looking for someone. They agree, and they start talking. And at first they agree that basically if whatever they see, they're going to shoot. If it moves, just fucking shoot it. Let's save ourselves the problem, right? And then one of them finds a pagan ritual symbol on the wall, and then spots what I think was Nikki going through a doorway when I first saw it, and asks her to come out, and it is. She turns, and I'm thinking, well, I thought they were going to shoot with no questions asked.
Right.
Right? Well, apparently there's some dissension. So as she lumbers towards the one cop, the other one's and he's telling her to stop. The second cop is coming in the room, and he's like, shoot her. First cop won't shoot her. She's getting closer, and she buries her head in his chest.
Almost like she gives him a hug.
Yeah, right? And, the first cop doesn't want to shoot her, but the second cop settles the situation. Gone.
Right.
Puts her down. And or
Oh,
no, it doesn't
no.
put her down. No. The second cop wants to shoot her, keeps telling the first cop to put her down. Cop doesn't. That's what, yeah, because Nikki ends up slinking away into the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really weird. And then they just decide to leave.
You're right.
Which I kind of get that was a little intense. You know, zombie hunting would be hard enough, number one. But then to go through that, you know,
being hugged by a zombie.
Yeah. And it was interesting because we still haven't been given a clear picture what goes on with people when they're infected.
Right.
Right? So I say she looks zombified. But here's the thing, you know, has she died and come back? Is she just progressing further into the disease? But there's some humanity left in her.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I saw. And yeah, so then they just, cops are like, time to go.
Right. Yeah, and then we're back to Aaron, and he's in a dilapidated house.
Yep.
And then back to the cops. And one of them says, "This doesn't make any sense."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm as clueless as you, sir. I don't know what's going on right now.
Well, yeah, and it's not going to be revealed here.
Right.
Right. But yeah, you get the sense that these poor cops, you know, they know more than we do.
Yeah.
And we're not sure what's happening. And it's not a criticism. It's the layering, right?
Right.
Like, well, you're supposed to not be hurting people, but clearly you're under orders to fucking get somebody and put them down.
Mm-hmm.
And you got, you know, you almost kind of feel sorry for him at this point.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, man.
Yeah, and then they discuss that they have clear orders to not shoot any suspects.
Right. I'm assuming this is after their
right
2 run-ins.
And then suddenly Aaron is there shooting at them.
Right.
Boom. And they have kind of an interaction with him. And they tell him that he needs to leave and go find his friend Angela.
Right.
And I was like, well, how do they know about Angela?
Ah, the plot thickens.
Oh.
So, Aaron and Rachel go into a room, and there's a table there. And we have Aaron's dad's friend, and he's sitting at a table with 2 others. The one of them is Mr. Yoshida, and there's a blonde woman next to him. She puts a gun up on the table.
And full stop.
And yeah, we're just going to stop it right there. You're going to have to see the rest.
Yeah.
Anything more that we talk about, we'll just, it'll give away all the devices and stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so at this point, without going into the end, mm-hmm. we're going to talk about stuff about this film.
Yeah. I wished that I had been following the web series because I felt like that would have kept me a little more, not feeling like I was falling behind on information.
Right.
Going into this.
Yeah. I want to see it now.
Well, yeah.
You know, time is the issue. I mean, you know,
right.
It's one more thing I have to find time for right now. That was kind of my only critical thought was not having seen the web series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of times when a web series or a short film or something is developed, or any kind of IP, so this is an IP, this is a good example, right? Yeah. A web series is intellectual property. So Hilton made a movie based off of his own IP,
mm-hmm.
right? But a lot of times when that happens, let's use Star Wars, for example. Okay. The last 2 movies, I'm sure this third one's going to be just fucking rife with it. They're including shit that doesn't have anything to do with the films. Okay. To me, the films are the first 3 films: Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
We don't need the prequel bullshit because that actually lent nothing to the story. Okay. But in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, 40 fucking years of books, comic books. I used to follow all the comic books till Marvel ended them, and then I was done with it. I read a couple books, Han Solo at Star's End, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, all these things, and I gave those up for a long time when Timothy Zahn was given permission to release his books, Dark Empire, and started reading it. But even that book, from that span of stuff that I was doing back when it was like the meat of Star Wars before it faded into Hollywood obscurity for a while. They're throwing in shit that has nothing to do with the films. It has to come from these comic books, and not everyone has the ability to reach out and spend all their livelong day going through the 400 different comics, the umpteenth, the role-playing games and all this and that. It's like, well, this guy is, from here. Why is he in this film? Okay.
Who knows?
I get it. It's a nod to, it's an Easter egg, but not to the core audience. See? So that was my first thought was, and I'm not comparing this to that because Star Wars is a fucking mess. So, but yeah, my thought was, I wonder if there was a little reliance on something in the web series.
Right.
That people who saw the web series and see this, it wouldn't click that it's not here. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just kind of flows in. It's like us having a conversation about Sorsha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And literally no one besides us knows the layers that are involved in this tapestry.
Right.
Of a story.
Yeah. So when we're talking about episode 5, right, and what we're doing and how it's we call it Patrick Firsure and it's a dead guy and CJ's recounting through his eyes and his time and this and that. People don't understand how deep in the layers that is when we get there, right? And how many more layers it reveals before the end of that hour-long episode. And to us, it's like no big deal.
Well, yeah, because it's a language that we share together.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing is, if, we talk about it sometimes, we just kind of go with other people, like family. And it's like, and then at some point it's like, oh, you probably don't know who that is because we haven't talked about them because we have all these episodes that we've done and we have all this thing and we have 5 years of shows written out.
All the stuff that we haven't even written that we've just talked about that's in our heads.
Yeah.
That we know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of felt that might be something there because it seemed like there was a couple elements. And the caveat being, like I said at the beginning, when you're watching a film and you're taking notes, you can miss shit.
That's true.
And you don't know that you miss it. There's been a couple of times we've watched stuff and we've stopped and gone back because we know. Right.
That we missed something.
Yeah. Because we're looking and it's, a short note that's not as short as you wanted it to be. Or you're like me. It's like, I'm just, I need to type 3 words and I can't hit the right fucking letters.
Right.
It's like, what's wrong with me? So we might have missed a couple little things, but that's kind of what, we don't want to watch a movie and then go through it again. And then maybe a third time. One, we don't have the time.
A lot of time.
To do this every week, 2 or 3 times per film. Because the whole point is, if it's new, this is what you get. So while we're taking notes, it could be the same thing. It could be, I'm getting my popcorn, I'm getting my stolen candy bar or smuggled candy bar out of my pocket stealthily, taking a sip, and you're missing a little bit on what's going on the screen. So if we missed it, we did.
Right.
Right. But yeah. And that's really my only thing is, there's the montages. Right. Now I will say there is a promise to be more.
Yes.
Right. That goes without, I don't, that's not going to spoil anything.
I'm really excited to see what comes up next.
Yeah. It's, at the end to be continued. So, that's why you need to rent this or go to their site and buy it so that he can have the money and get rolling on this.
Exactly.
And so in that respect, I also, when I saw that, it kind of answered some of the questions without answers. Like, maybe I'm not supposed to know that right now. It's going to unfold in the second piece.
Right.
Right. And that's fair. It's frustrating because independent film is like British television.
You never know when the next one's going to come out.
Well, you never know if it's going to come out.
That's true.
You know, but I know he's going to do it. Hilton is clearly on it.
Passion.
You know? Yeah. But it could take forever to get the money and then the scheduling and all that usual bullshit that goes into trying to make your own movie. You know, so yeah, we could be sitting, it could be like fucking thick of it. It could be, 5 years later, next season. What? I'm excited, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
If I hadn't written it off. You know. So yeah, I mean, it could be quite a while before those answers are given back to us. We'll wait.
Yeah.
And we'll watch it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the only downside to that approach. Because I like that approach. I like the to be continued. I like that here's a bunch of shit and you have a lot of questions. Good. That means you're going to come back. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what our whole series is about. That's what gets people coming back each week.
True.
Right? Is what was that?
Well, yeah, that's the point of a series.
Yeah. So every episode, as you get, so say you're in, episode 7 in a season, should have answers to questions that were brought out in episode 2, episode 4, 5, and even 6, all at different times.
Yeah.
And
that it layering should raise and stuff. 10 more questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is really good at layering. There's clearly a lot of stuff that's going on.
This is a really densely layered story.
Right. And I think your criticism it wasn't the Zombie Fest.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's fair because we didn't know going in what it was going to be. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say it's not a zombie apocalypse film.
Right.
Okay. And it's nice. This is actually this is a really fresh take on the entire concept, right? And by fresh take, I don't mean 28 days later and infected humans going apeshit, right? This is a whole completely different thing, which I commend heavily because it's hard to do original and zombie genre.
It really is. There's so much out there. And I mean, even with our zombie movie, which was the first script we wrote together, was a zombie movie without a lot of zombies in it.
Well, it's an origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't show up until the very end.
Right.
Right? But, that whole thing. And, of course, we're going to toot our own horn because the humans are way more fucked up and scary than the zombies that they create.
They are.
That's kind of the whole thing.
They're mutado.
The Dream Team?
Yeah.
The short bus zombies. The experiments that didn't pan out right away.
Yeah. Not effective. Zombies.
And we've been in discussions with people, and we're still waiting to hear back from one producer. But we get a lot of that's very original.
We do.
And here's the thing: we wrote it to be original, which we're very glad about. It's also super cheap.
It is.
It's like a 2 or 3 location shoot.
Max,
right? We have specific areas that we put in the script that like they're in Arizona and it takes place in Phoenix. But really, it can be rewritten in an hour to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right. There's just reasons. I lived in Arizona for several years, and I know every inch of that fucking state, so I could just see this would make sense. This is if the zombie apocalypse were to go down, I could see how it could easily be created here. Because when I would go out hiking in the desert, all those meth labs I found.
Yeah.
That I would mark with my GPS and turn them into the sheriff. That shit goes rampant, so you could easily create a fucking zombie army out there, and no one would catch you.
Right. But kind of back to this.
Well, yeah, the whole point of that though is that it's a simple thing to do and it's different, but it's not what people would expect when you say we wrote a zombie film.
Right.
Right. And that's where this works. in doing
Right.
that. In that, yeah, we had that expectation, but then when you're halfway through, it's like, clearly this isn't
Right.
gonna, right, turn into a Night of the Living Dead scenario.
Right.
But you know what? So what is fucking going on?
Well, yeah.
And it's not one or two people. It's not like it's this secret thing going. That's other movies where they have the zombie thing going in secret. Um, Fear the Walking Dead. I know you didn't watch it because I told you don't bother.
I watched like 1 or 2 episodes of it, and I wasn't about it.
Yeah, and well, like, yeah, we watched and then we usually give something 3 episodes for a show. I kept watching it in bed to fall asleep to, and it just got worse and worse and worse. But yeah, it's not this secret thing that goes on. So this is zombie virus, and somehow Aaron got it, you know,
Right.
and it's pretty established. That's what I like. All these things are established, that these aren't just random bits of information, because it's referenced several times. He has the virus. A lot of people know about it at different levels.
Yeah.
But we don't know who they are exactly and what their deal is.
Right. Or what part they have to play.
Yeah.
In this story.
Yeah. You know, I wish we'd had the budget number to talk about. I don't know how much it was, because when I was out looking, there were several different campaigns that had begun and were canceled, and there were different amounts that had been raised, and I lost track of which, because some fundraising, if you don't get your goal, you get nothing.
On certain websites, yeah.
Right. Others, you get what you get.
Right.
Right. And I know he changed gears a couple of times, so I don't know the total of this, but a lot of his money well spent.
Yeah.
I think. They clearly got some actors with teeth.
Yeah, the acting was pretty good.
Yeah. And we want to talk about the cops in a minute. There's just because we had the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, that it could be a criticizing point, if you wanted it to be, but it's not. Let's talk about the cops now. Okay. So here's the thing about cops. These cops, well, what?
Oh, in my notes?
Yeah.
When the cops were first introduced?
Yeah, you bring us into this.
It's not a super criticism of them. You know, it's just like I'm hypercritical and I watch things with a very critical eye. And when I saw them come on, I was like, oh, these cops. They're really trying.
Cops in almost every film, unless it's, and this is what we talked about, unless it's a cop movie, you know, like True Colors or a TV show, like, you know, all the way back to Hill Street Blues and stuff. Cops don't have depth.
They don't.
Think of any movie, A movie,
very
B movie.
one-dimensional.
Yeah, they are there to serve a purpose, and in every film, right? You're just like they're so one-dimensional.
It's true.
They're there to be an obstacle that's unnecessary. They're there to be an obstacle that's overcome, or they're just there, you know, to put a nargle in your ass. And as an audience member, like, fucking cops, why don't you guys get out of here?
Yeah, or even as like comic relief.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
You know, or to break up the scene. But yeah, there's not a lot to them. So every time we see cops, it's almost like, oh. And that's funny because these guys, there's not a lot of character depth because we don't need it.
We don't.
Right? We truly don't. And we don't get it. Now, we know as we see them go on, they're involved with somebody who knows way more than they do.
Right.
And isn't giving them information in bucketfuls, right? They're just like, well, we're supposed to do this. We're supposed to do that. Then they decide, well, fuck it, we're going to do this. And clearly somebody had a talking to. Like, we're under orders.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, they were probably I can't think of the word. It's not the weakest point. It's not weak. That's the wrong term. I'll say the softest point in the whole story is just because they're cops.
Right.
Right. And they don't have a whole lot to do. with what's going on, because we spend a lot of time with Aaron and Rachel,
Hmm.
and as we should. And
Well,
then the
yeah.
people that's around them, these guys kind of show up just, again, to put a pin in their butt and move on. So yeah, that
Hmm.
was, you know, it was what it was.
Right.
And it's not a bad thing. It's
That's
just
true.
movie cops. They're one in the same pretty much everywhere.
They are.
But in terms of putting this thing together, good actors.
Yeah, pretty good actors. Um, Interesting sets. There was always,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I hope we get to talk to him about this.
Hmm.
Hilton. Well, even Kyle. Either one of them, because Kyle was there. He was acting. Um, was it
Right.
guerrilla shooting? Or
Yeah,
because
I
I
don't
mean that
know.
happens a lot,
It does.
right? And we've talked about, if you're going to guerrilla shoot, there's things you gotta. And I was thinking about that. If this was guerrilla shooting in these dilapidated old buildings, it's great ambience. And
Dangerous though.
it's dangerous, not just because of the construction, the architectural issues of a crumbling building, but like I said earlier, this could be in any one of these rooms overnight, bam, a bevy of meth heads could show up,
True.
right? Strung out and stuff. And you're like, okay, let's get in there. It's 7:30 in the morning. Let's go. Get in the van, get over there, set up quick, shoot, and we'll be out there by 11. Then the meth heads show up. And I thought, God damn.
Yeah.
That would be on the forefront of my mind if I did that in these old buildings.
That's true.
Well, there are photographers who make a huge living going into these old shitty places illegally. Some of them are clearly posted no trespassing,
Yeah.
and they go in and do it. I never did. I was always fascinated by it,
Right.
but I never went out of my bounds. I just, I don't know.
Yeah, but you like climbed cliffs and stuff and went down into places I'm pretty sure you weren't supposed to go.
But I wasn't trespassing.
Anyway.
Let me have some coffee while you talk.
So yeah, good sets, good actors. The music was pretty good throughout this movie.
Yeah.
It was very tonal and stuff. The makeup and effects were really good.
Yes.
So clearly, I mean, Hilton got a bunch of people who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is probably his web series team, right? And then also other people.
Maybe. I don't know, we got to watch the web series and see.
Yeah, I don't like to assume things.
Right.
But...
Well, I'm sure most of them, brought it forward, but like I'm thinking like the effects. Let's talk about web series in general.
Okay.
One of the things that we had talked about a little bit is, that's the thing to do. So you want to make a movie, okay? You want to write a movie. We've talked before about, doing a short film. Write yourself a little short. Break that bad boy down. So if you've got a 15-minute short film, break it down into 5 3-minute increments and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? The big thing that goes around is the sizzle reel. That has become a thing in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Shoot your sizzle reel. Just the way they talk about it is so fucking smarmy. It just really bugs me. But it has a purpose.
It's a tool.
Right? And, here's the thing. Hilton wanted to do this, and he did it as a web series. Web series is infinitely cheaper than doing a film.
It is.
And with a web series is more forgiving. Now, you should do the best that you can.
Right.
Right? All the way around. But when you put up a web series, people aren't instantly expecting, like, this film was, top quality. The shots, the sets, the framing of everything, the lighting, everything was really well done. And cost money and time.
Yeah.
Right? But with a web series, you can do
you have a very forgiving audience.
You do. Several grades down. Right? Because people who watch this stuff on YouTube, they're just into this shit.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this about? I don't even care, man. I'm going to watch it because it interests me, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about the lighting. I'm not going to worry about green screen. I'm not going to worry about, all this stuff. It's a whole community.
Right.
Not just the people who do it, but the people who view it.
Yeah.
So, if you want to do something, make a web series.
Mm-hmm.
Work on that for however long you can, stretch it out. If you're doing 3 minutes at a time and you're thinking of doing a feature, you should have enough material to carry you, and you can do it once a week. You could do it every 2 weeks.
Right.
I wouldn't do once a month because you'll lose people. I mean, people forget shit super quick. I do. When I'm on these investigation binges, these fact-finding things, I stumble across a lot of shit that makes me go, "Whoa, nice!" And then by the end of the day, I don't even know. Like, I thought I saw something. Huh? Oh well.
And you go, Danny, I was going to tell you something.
I saw this cool thing, but I don't even remember what it's about.
I'm like, cool, Jim.
Yep, that's what
Thanks
I do.
for telling me.
Hey. So anyway, yeah,
they're very doable.
They are,
and I mean, you can do it on a phone. Everyone pretty much has a phone.
It is, yeah.
Right, with a decent camera. They're pretty ubiquitous, and if you don't have one, you have a friend who has one.
Yep. Well, and here's the better part: if that's a problem, okay, because there are people out there who want to do this and they don't have a phone,
right?
Okay, it's a fact, and it sounds kind of like, oh, they don't have a phone. They can't afford it, or they might be in a place where it doesn't make sense to have a fucking phone. We have a few of those left in the country.
That's true.
There's nothing happening. There's no signal anywhere. You can get camcorders for under $100.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's, I saw a couple of them for $40 to $60. They're not super great.
They're not stellar, but they'll do the trick.
They record a picture and sound.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you need to get on YouTube.
Yep.
So yeah, you can get it done.
Absolutely.
And you don't need to invest a lot.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube's free.
Yeah.
And you can experiment with shit. And here's the best part. Once you get stuff going, which is kind of ideal, like if you have a feature in mind and maybe you don't have it all fleshed out yet, start doing those little bits. Start doing your story, because what you make in the end doesn't have to match exactly what you did on YouTube.
Right.
Right. But it gets you a following. And this is that whole thing of IP. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
This isn't a graphic novel. It's a web series. Just as good.
If your content has good bones, right?
Yeah.
If your material, your creative material has good bones, people are going to recognize it and you're going to get following.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. And that's what it's going to take when you do want to get to a feature. These are the people who will help you.
Yeah.
They'll help with the fundraising. They'll help pass the word. They'll get you going on social media and stuff. So yeah, it's excellent.
And I don't even know how many times we've been told when talking to creative, developers and executives and stuff like that, when we're doing our pitches, they're like, yeah, why don't you just make it into a web series? And that way you can get kind of a following and it'll be easier for you to sell it.
Well, and we've had that on a couple of things.
I know.
But if you're referencing Sorsha,
we're not making Sorsha into a web series.
Well, there's no way you could.
No.
There's no way. That's one of those. This is so big and complicated. There's no way we would pull it off with 3 people in the living room. You know what I mean?
5 types of aliens.
There's so much going on. Well, that's the thing. It takes place at sea. We don't even, anyway. So, create your own IP. And we can tell you from experience, if you have an idea and you think you could do a weekly episode of it and tell the story over a protracted period of time, well, that's a good candidate for a graphic novel as well. But graphic novels, Jesus Christ, if you don't know a fucking illustrator, the fucking headaches we've had trying to get this into a graphic novel.
What a nightmare.
And we can't draw.
Listen. Hey, I can draw mean stick figures. I'll tell you what.
Well, but can you compare to stick figure theater?
No.
All right. So see, we're fucked. Yeah. And it's ridiculously expensive. Even if you could find somebody, right? That they'll be like, yeah, I'll do it for free. You gotta have it printed, and then you gotta have it digitized, and you have to release it, and you have to get out there and get it into shops and stuff. You know what? Make your 3 to 5 minutes a week
Yeah.
chapters on a web series.
Right.
Because you will get a following and people respect it. We respect it.
Yeah.
We stumbled across a lot of little web series that, started and then died, unfortunately.
That does happen.
But hey, that's the name of the game, folks.
If you create a web series, it starts and dies. That's fine. Do another one.
Yeah. And I will say it's not a good gauge though. Okay. Indie stuff, when you do things like a web series or even a graphic novel or a self-published book, whether or not it succeeds, like, do you get tens of thousands of views on YouTube? Did you sell 7,500 copies at the local Comic-Con, right, for your graphic novel? If you didn't, if it falls short of that, it has nothing to do with whether or not the shit's good.
Well, I mean, that's a part of it, but it's definitely not.
Well, it's a little part of it, but I've seen some stuff that's really good, but it's still buried in obscurity. They've had 5 views. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, if you follow us on social media, you know that I'm out there. I don't every 10 fucking minutes, do a social media blast. I don't have that kind of time, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big conflux of it's that old chestnut. I have some really good shit, but I just can't get it in the right spot it needs to be to get noticed.
Right.
Right. So, but here's all the other thing. Maybe it is shit.
Well, I mean, it's a possibility.
Maybe you've got 5 views because 5 people saw it and went, nope.
Yeah.
But you know what you do? You make another one.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Fuck. New story. Put that thing back. Put it in the shelf.
Right.
Come back to it in another year. In the meantime, come up with 2 or 3 more things. Don't give up. That's kind of the thing. Yeah, I mean, what motivates people to do things, is the creativity. It's what we do, to be creative.
Well, yeah.
That's why we do it, and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, I don't know, honestly, how they're going to measure the success of Zombie with a Shotgun. I'm sure they have like a metric. And again, if we get to talk to them, we'll find that out. But, from what I'm seeing is, if we were to be doing this, I guess it would be, well, what kind of revenue could we get? How many rentals can we get? Can we get it out there? But really, the success is getting it done and just having one unattached person go, I dig it.
Right.
Right? Anything more than that is just better. If you connected with somebody with your creative work, you fucking succeeded.
Yeah.
Okay. It might not be your dreams and your money goals or, whatever else there is, but it's a success,
True.
So if something doesn't get that connection, you know what? Chalk it up to not the right moment. I'm not in the right headspace. Because we have watched several documentaries on films that, and we mentioned like Deadpool, how many, over a decade in the making.
Crazy.
Right? This is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, some guy's like, whoa, I want to be with you on this. I want to help you make this.
Right?
That's a huge turnaround.
It is. It's just, it's all like right moment, right time, right person, right place. And it's just a conflux of things. So it just, don't give up on your stuff.
Yeah, don't give up. Take it for what it is. So if you do a web series and you do all these other things, okay, instead of jumping into a feature, take it for what it is. If it storms ahead, excellent. If it doesn't, put it aside, do a couple other things, and then bring it out of mothballs.
Yeah.
Let's reintroduce this thing.
I know. And now I'm like, oh, you know what? Plan Z would make a fun web series. Baking Chaos would make a fun web series. All these ideas that we've had. I mean, there are a couple that I'm like, that's probably not.
That's
wouldn't. Not a series material.
No.
That's a straight. But anyway.
Yeah. Plan Z would be an awesome web series.
It'd be fun, right?
But we would have to get somebody who's good at practical effects.
Mm.
My doing up Lily as a zombie for Halloween was not last year. Was not the level I want to, because it's more than just making, dead withered skin and stuff. Because we have the Dream Team have some serious issues that would require some extensive prosthetics. But yeah. Anyway, see, we didn't mean to it, but you know what? If we could rankle that, it would be a fun thing to do.
It would.
A lot of people are saying, like I said, sizzle reels. Do 5 to 10 minutes of the feature you have in mind. So you got your feature script, pick 3 scenes, shoot them, as best you can.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. The rest doesn't even need to make sense. That's a sizzle reel. It's not a trailer.
Right.
It's just like, here's a visual of my idea. So make your web series your sizzle reel.
Exactly.
I guess that's going to be our big lesson this week.
Yeah.
Create your own IP. We've talked about that, but we didn't talk about web series. True. We talked about books and graphic novels, and stuff, short films.
True.
So do a web series.
And you know what's a really good resource for finding people to help you out with your web series?
Oh, do tell.
Stage 32.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stage32.com, folks. You probably don't believe us, but we do not get anything for saying anything about them, right? They don't sponsor us. We don't get anything. We do it because we believe in it, because it has 5 years ago.
Longer than that, even.
No, it was 2014.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we went about a year and a half doing it old school. Got our fucking heads kicked in, knocking on doors.
How many legal letters did we get?
Yeah.
Quite a few.
My favorite was from Sony. They sent it back unopened. We're not.
Fine.
Yeah, we cannot take any unsolicited, or we cannot open any unsolicited mail addressed to the development, because of copyright issues and da 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 da. It was very polite, and it made sense.
Yeah.
They don't want to get accused
of these production companies are very polite.
Yeah. And it's, they don't want to get sued for stealing someone's idea.
Right.
I get that. But we didn't know at the time, what do you do? So, I got the name and address of people and we sent out 50 and then 60 and then 70 fucking letters.
Yeah.
And we got back 50 and 60 and 70 letters. Anyway.
And then we found Stage 32.
Stage 32. And you can find people in your local area. There's about 750,000 members.
Yeah.
Across the world.
Amazing.
And I mean across the world, not just, in London and in,
all
Sydney.
Over the world.
All over the world. Places you would never have imagined that there's an independent film movement.
They have webinars. You want to learn how to do something? They have a webinar for it.
Yeah.
You can pitch your idea to creative executives. You can post jobs.
Yeah.
For the web series that you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And joining's free.
Yep.
All the forums are free. They have a lot of great blogs. A lot of people putting out information. The hardcore education stuff, you pay for the webinars and so on. I mean, but you can you don't have to give them a dime, and you can get a lot out of it.
Right.
Just networking with people, talking with people, finding people who, like I said, we've said it before, do this to find your tribe.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, figure out how you can make it work for you. That's the thing.
I know.
It's there. It doesn't do anything magically, right? But it opens up doorways in places around the country and around the world that that were never there before.
Yeah.
And you can work your way straight through a phone call. Like we've had a couple phone calls, good phone calls with producers, not, I made a commercial. I'm a producer. These guys have been at it for a while,
Well, yeah. And even it's like, even beyond the pitching aspect of it, we've made some contacts with people in the creative sphere in LA.
Yeah.
Right. And that we now, semi-regularly correspond with.
Yeah. We have a relationship.
Right.
Which would never have happened unless we packed up and moved out there. And went into places we weren't supposed to go, and worked your way in the hard way. You still have to do all that kind of shit to really, I mean, it's part of it, only this is much easier because you don't have to go to LA.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, stage32.com, folks. Go there and network. Sign up, read blogs, read the forums. They have an introduce yourself weekend in the lounge. You can put hey, here's who I am, see who everybody else is, and just click on network request, add to network, add to network, add to network, add to network. Start networking with people, make those connections, say, hey, thanks for accepting me or my request. Right. And,
you can
here's what I'm
swap
about.
material with people, get feedback on stuff. It's great. And they really, really don't pay us to do this. No. I wish they did. That'd be cool.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. Once you get in, and you'll see that you want this to continue on, and you want to spread it to people. The biggest tip though is don't go on there and say, "Hey, can you read my script? Can you read my script? Can you read my script?" Don't do shit like that. When you make network connections, read about the people, read their bios, right? What they're doing, and find the connection with you. Obviously,
right.
I mean, if the guy's a musical composer and you have no interest in music and you're just a writer, don't go knocking him up for contacts and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know anybody who can read my script? That's not the way to do it. But you find people and you're like, hey, you're doing this and this and this. I would love to know more, because I'm doing this. I'm new here, but is there anything I could, help you with? Or, show an interest. Can you tell me more about what you're doing over here? Because I've never heard of that, or I find that fascinating. Just like a normal conversation.
It's a really good community.
It is.
So with that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would want to talk about for today?
Nope. See this film. We'll have links to their websites, get the DVD. Let's see if I can get the Amazon link to so they can rent it. But rent Zombie with a Shotgun, folks, or better yet, buy it.
Yeah.
From them, and enjoy this thing. Enjoy it. That's my plug.
Okay.
I'm done.
Check us out on patreon.com/bravo for the B-side.
Mm-hmm.
Check out our website, lordsofmisruleproductions.com.
Yep.
You can find links to everywhere we are, every platform for podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn,
we
Deezer.
Should make a list, yeah.
We have a list on the site. When you listen, subscribe.
Review.
Yeah. And rate.
Please.
Especially if it's Apple Podcasts. Nothing else matters in that universe. So yeah, subscribe. Leave a review, or at least give a rating. But we'd like a review too. So, find us out there.
Yes.
And we usually don't do this, but next week, not just a movie, it is our last episode of a very short first season of 2019. We are going to do an Ed Wood retrospective for your New Year's Eve-ish, might be a day or two early.
Listening
pleasure. Ed Wood, again, if you don't know the name, you should. The grand master of B movies of questionable quality.
Yes.
But I would still maintain unmatched in passion.
Absolutely.
Right? So we're going to talk about, he's got a bevy of films, the most popular of which is Plan 9 from Outer Space. So yeah, now you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to talk about Ed Wood, his films, Bride of the Monster, Glen or Glenda, just a bunch of other stuff. And we're going to talk about not so much each film individually, but kind of end the year with, what makes him so goddamn great to watch and a great filmmaker, even though, the quality was not there.
I so enjoy watching his movies.
If you had an ounce of his passion, you'll bust through shit you can't imagine.
I know, right?
So that's going to be the New Year's Eve episode. So get ready for it. Again, we'll probably pop it out a couple days early just because.
Holiday stuff.
Holiday stuff. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Well, B-Siders, that's it for another episode. We thank you for listening.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.